In the first video, we looked at the abusive term "Heigui" and how it's used to insult darker-skinned people. And in the second video, we looked at discrimination against other lighter-skinned people, such as Caucasians. In this video, I'd like to look at skin color discrimination, which is like an overlay, superimposed on top of discrimination by race and ethnic group, affecting and reinforcing prejudice against certain ethnic groups, but not being limited to them, and not being limited to people with origins outside Taiwan's main ethnic groups either. This kind of discrimination includes all people within Taiwan as well. So, this kind of discrimination doesn't negatively affect Caucasians. Caucasians may be mocked for other aspects of their appearance, such as wide, staring eyes, beak-like noses, and furry bodies in the case of males, as well as, of course, cultural inferiority, wishy-washy lifestyles, and degenerate sexual morals. But as far as skin color is concerned, they're in the clear. Within Taiwan, there is a kind of social hierarchy, which is not exactly determined by skin color, but is reinforced by skin color. So, in this social hierarchy, dark skin is taken to be a sign of low social status, and light skin a sign of high social status. In my book, The Taiwan Experience, I relate how in early 1986, along with 7 or 8 white Europeans, I worked as a film extra on a film supposedly set in Africa, but actually filmed in Danshui. The African extras, who I'm sure were paid a very different rate from us whites, were children of Taiwanese mothers and African-American fathers who didn't stay around long, military personnel stationed in Taiwan in the 1950s. The local people who crowded around us white film extras excitedly during our breaks, eager to talk to us and learn about us, assumed these mixed-blooded film extras we worked with to be American blacks at first, and only treated them with mild disdain and disinterest, until they opened their mouths and spoke fluent Taiwanese. That elicited looks of bewilderment and of pure revulsion, and after that point, those film extras were shunned completely by the local onlookers. One of our number, a Dutch guy who was the only Taiwanese speaker among us, felt compelled to apologize to them, but they only laughed and, according to his explanation, told him they were used to such treatment. Most spoke very little Mandarin, having been denied state education. I'll go into nationality law in a future video, but take it from me, for now, as far as the government was concerned at that time, these people were Americans. In those days, those mixed black Taiwanese would have been right off the bottom of the scale you see here, along with black Africans, South Asians, and non-Chinese Southeast Asians. Today, they would be granted the dignity of citizenship of the country they were born in, so would be down at the bottom of the scale, along with Aboriginal Taiwanese. The indigenous Taiwanese still constitute the most underprivileged sector of society, and although it isn't because they happen to be, generally speaking, the darkest skinned people in Taiwan, it's also no coincidence that they are. Of course, I'm talking in generalities here. There are also relatively light-skinned Aboriginals, but generally speaking, the poorest segment of Taiwan society is also the darkest. And several recent surveys have found that most Han Chinese parents, and Han Chinese officially means the other approximately 97% of the population, whether people of recent mainland Chinese descent, native Minnan speakers or Hakka speakers, would object to their children marrying Aboriginal Taiwanese, who strictly speaking are not ethnically Chinese. Above the Aboriginals in this social hierarchy are those Han Chinese who work in farming and fisheries and other jobs where, try as they may, and most try very diligently, it's difficult to avoid ultraviolet rays. One way or another, most end up deeply tanned. Generally speaking, these are also not wealthy people, so the skin color social hierarchy is reinforced further. Then you have the bulk of the population, who now work in sedentary white-collar jobs. But even here, most people will avoid ultraviolet like the plague, for fear of tanning and being taken to be a person from lower down the social scale. Those foreign nationals who've been in Taiwan for more than a summer cannot have failed to notice that when summer comes here, and you may be expecting just the opposite, for most people, that's when the long sleeves and jackets come back out. Even gloves for many motorcycle commuters, especially females, who typically zip their jackets right up their necks to ensure no ultraviolet rays sneak in and damage their complexions. So, put as simply and as bluntly as it can be, in Taiwan, white skin is loved and black skin is loathed. True, there are a growing number of health-conscious people, especially young people, who throw caution to the wind on the beaches and by swimming pools in the summer and allow themselves to get deeply tanned. But relatively speaking, these people still constitute a tiny minority, and most people are very well aware of how others will perceive them if they allow themselves to tan black. If you've watched Taiwanese TV dramas, you've probably noticed how unusually white everybody looks, especially the females. If you didn't already know, you'd wonder where they were from, and you'd probably never guess Taiwan. In English, we would talk about dark skin and light skin, but in Chinese, it's literally black skin and white skin. And there's no pretense here either. Cosmetic commercials in Taiwan make a big thing about being mei bai, beautiful and white, or beautifully white. Let's have a look at what turns Chinese men on. This call girl site, operating out of Guangzhou, claimed to be serving both Hong Kong and Taiwan, though it's now been taken down. And it had a .tw domain registered in Taiwan. But the point is, look at all that white skin. Whoa! As always in this series of videos, where I have an example of first-hand experience of the video's topic, I'll provide it, and in this case, it happens that I do. When I first arrived in Taiwan in the mid-1980s, I had no idea of this skin colour prejudice, which was much worse then than it is now, and I ended up in a relationship with a dark-skinned local girl. I was also on very good terms with several of my English language students, and 3 in particular often had drinks or a bite to eat with me after class. One evening, these 3 guys pulled me aside after class for a friendly chat, having met my girlfriend for the first time after the previous class. They told me they had been shocked to see my girlfriend, who was, quote, so dark we thought she had to be a mountain person. You can do a lot better than that, another told me, before going on to say that they knew several girls who they could introduce me to. All good, light-skinned, Waishan girls, graduates of a girls' school in northern Taipei. When I told them I liked dark skin, they took my claim hilariously. And I guess they thought I was just being stubborn, unwilling to admit my mistake. Leave the farm girl on the farm, one insisted, before going on to tell me one of the girls they had in mind actually bathed in milk once a week to maintain her beauty. This comment about the farm girl made a deep impression on me at the time, as it seemed he had somehow guessed correctly. My girlfriend came from a small farming community in South Taiwan. Eventually, I acquiesced and agreed to meet these girls one by one to see which one I liked. There didn't seem any harm to it, as it amounted to no more than initial introductions at coffee shops or tea houses. I felt all 3 were airheads, and of course I didn't take up with any of them. Nor did I leave my girlfriend for any other beautifully white-skinned girl. But I did eventually decide to terminate my relationship with my dark-skinned girlfriend, having come to the conclusion that all my other friends and associates looked down on her. Okay, so that just about wraps up the topic of discrimination by skin colour as it exists in Taiwan, and next video I'll take a more in-depth look at the ethnic makeup of Taiwan. Speak to you later.